All right, guys, how are you this morning? Again, not able to join in on video for you, so I am going to be posting this and just again showing you right now something that when we last left off looking at videos and taking a look at HDIs, gender inequality, the United Nations in the early 2000s actually recognized that there were 8 areas that needed to be improved upon and to get all countries away from being considered developing countries into developed countries. That means that they are at least have a strong industrialized economy, rather than relying on subsistence agriculture, that they are eradicating extremes, education, child mortality rates, maternal health, global partnerships, gender equality. As you guys see there, these are the 8 millennial goals. Now, pay attention to these only because these are things that, screenshot, whatever, making sure you guys go back and take a look at this screen. Do so you are prepared for the final unit test to be able to understand it. Today, we're actually going to be taking a look at economies. And we're going to be taking a look at the different type of economies and how they relate to information we learned from last unit. The first type of economy that I want to share with you guys is an economy that exists outside of the normal set parameters, explanations, and it exists in a way that you need to understand may even become more prevalent in the days ahead. But we have what is called an informal economy. Informal economies exist outside of government regulation and government control. They are not taxed by the government. Examples, as far as you guys see on the screen, include begging, organized crime, child labor, and a home dressmaker. So, begging, just like a homeless person, it's people that get money on the side of the road do not have to report that to the federal government. That's why it's informal. If you get a chance, way back when you're able to go to places like Cancun or you're able to go to vacation tourist areas and you go out and you see that there's constant people like selling you things, little trinkets, knockoff sunglasses. They are operated in an informal economy. They do not have to report, they are not regulated by the US government to supply what they're selling and proof that it is an original. New York City had a very bad problem with this years ago, where gentlemen would just walk up and down the streets and they would just carry baskets full of knockoff designer handbags and would be not saying they're fake, not saying they're real, but they would be selling these knockoff designer bags for a pretty decent price. And of course, people are willing to buy them on the street. Now, the thing is that again, they did not report this to the government. They were not operating within government regulations because government regulations would say that you are basically interfering with a trademark design by a company that has gone through the process of claiming that handbag design as their own. Organized crime goes underneath the informal economy because it's crime. Anything that where people are keeping records, there is money being exchanged for some type of service or good, all illegal. It's still not reported to the government. It's still not controlled by the government. Child labor laws, where children are used and not reported as making a wage, that's informal. And of course, a lot of you guys know somebody who is at home and they have a little side gig where they're crafting and they're making things and they're selling them online through Etsy and things like that, or selling them through Facebook or whatever other online social media. That's informal economy. The government's not controlling what they make and how they produce it and how much they sell it for. And if it stays within a certain amount, they don't even have to report it to the government as far as their profit goes and be taxed upon it. Then we are obviously taking a look at what is economic wealth. Economic wealth So when we're taking a look at the value and quantity of resources of a country or region, especially in terms of the production and consumption of goods and services. And so what we're taking a look at is how are countries ranked based off value and quantity. How are they using their resources in terms of providing these goods and these services? And there's different ways to develop wealth and resources. And so what we're doing today is we're actually going to be taking a look at what is a primary economy all the way to a quaternary economy. And one of the things you guys need to realize is that as we are taking a look at primaries, secondaries, tertiaries, quaternaries, is that we are also realizing that we are moving further and further away from direct contact with the land as far as making money goes. So first and foremost, primary economy. Primary economy is anything that extracts or harvests products from the earth. Raw materials, your basic foods. If you're going and you're planting a garden and your garden has your carrots, your cucumbers, your potatoes, a tomato plant, that's a primary market. That's primary economy. The cows, primary. When nothing has to be processed outside of fitting it to be purchased by a consumer, it is primary. So most of the outside edges of your grocery store, when you go in and you go through the produce section to the back meat section, all the way over to dairy, on the other side where you find your milk, you find your eggs, you find your cheeses, that is considered primary because it is raw materials. Same thing can be found when you go into a hardware store like Home Depot. On one side is all the wood, that's primary. You go to the other side and you have all of these design manufactured goods, that's not. Anytime that there is a change to the product where it has been processed, whether you're taking wheat, you're taking corn, and you're making potato chips, you're making crackers, that's processed food. When you are taking coffee and grinding it up, you're processing it. That means that there is no longer a primary item. And so you guys take a look at the examples where you have agriculture, where you have mining, you have forestry, fishing. If it comes straight from the earth, then very little is done to touch it except clean it and prepare it for display to be purchased. It's primary. Now, when it does have to become, that wood becomes a vanity replacement in your bathroom. When your raw materials are then created to make metal and it has to be manufactured into a finished good. You are moving into a secondary market, a secondary economy. This is when everything's got to be processed, where construction is involved. And so, a big issues is that is anything we purchase that is like a vehicle or construction. A house is not primary; it's secondary because of everything that is gone in to construct it. Then we move into post industrialized economies or tertiary economies. This is where the majority of jobs are providing services to everyone. And that means that they are repairing a lot of the items that have been created in secondary. They're maintenance workers, they're heating air people, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're teachers, they're EMS, they're firefighters, they're drill workers. This is tertiary. They're providing us a service. They're making our energy. They are fixing our roads. They are teaching students. They are defending people. They are protecting the community. They are putting out fires. They are making legislation choices. They are working at a call center and complaining when your internet goes out. This is all part of the service industry. And the majority of jobs we have in the U.S. now are service industry jobs. We don't have those regular jobs where we show up every day and we go and we make something. We are always trying to fix something or develop something. Which leads us actually, when we talk about development, quaternary, where this is the newest type of market where we're taking a look at knowledge-based activities, where we're going more into research, where we're doing litigation, we are researching laws, we are taking a look at libraries and researching all the past books and information and coming up with new studies, new new business models, new computer generated models, algorithms, scientific research, education, information technology. This is quaternary because you are creating something new, but as you're creating it not necessarily with your hands, you're creating it with your mind. And this is where a lot of people are moving into, and a lot of new jobs are coming in, and degrees. This is where it's going more focused on research and creating something than it is actually going in and repairing and fixing. And then you move into taking a look at what types of economies that these types of markets come into, whether it is primary, you would mostly find in a stage one, possibly a stage two, or secondary economies you find in stage two. Tertiary would be a stage three. And of course, quaternary would be a stage four. And then, of course, here's another slide taking a look at it from the curve of where you see the different types of population models. So again, you're taking a look at, nobody's here, but we start to see how the different types of economies can relate to different stages. So going back, taking a look at tertiary market, please understand, like I said, post-industrial. Post-industrial economy exists. This actually factors in when you have a decline in your manufacturing sector. Very few of us have family members that wake up every day and go to a factory, clock in, clock out, make a product, and go home. A lot of manufacturing is being sent to less developed nations because of lower cost, lower labor cost, because a lot of those jobs are not necessarily, a lot of training is not needed outside of a certain skill, a certain trade. And people still in the United States have labor unions that allow for us to negotiate our how much somebody should be doing for those certain type of jobs. But the United States has just moved away from manufacturing because a lot of the factories, a lot of the big corporation manufacturers have just realized that it's a lot cheaper to go off the map of the United States overseas, across the border, make new factories with latest technology, and train people that are willing to take a very huge pay loss that compared to a U.S. citizen working in the same place. And it makes us to a large tertiary sector because we now have jobs, we now have time that we're not going to work in a factory job. We increase our amount of looking at information technology and leading us into the information age. Then post-industrial economy actually has different statuses as far as terminology about what type of jobs people do. Blue collar jobs, those industrialized jobs that are non-existent anymore, where people worked manufacturing. Usually, people that worked in manufacturing had a certain uniform. Mainly, it was blue, where you get the blue collar idea from, where they were hourly wage workers, heavily labor intensive. The baby boomers, those that were born after World War II, these were these were the jobs that were heavily available to them because after we got out of World War II and we'd made all these advancements, we had made, started using the same machines that we were rolling out military items for to making consumer items. And they were good jobs, except those jobs slowly went away and led us into the white collar economy where people went to college, people went and worked jobs that necessarily didn't have an hourly wage, but maybe had a salary, and you were at a desk and you were expected to dress professionally. Professionally meant that you wear a shirt and tie. And of course, most dress shirts are traditionally white. So you get the white collar. But now we have a gold collar type of economy in the US where you have high management positions, non traditional workspaces where people are either traveling, they don't have an office, they're on the road multiple weeks out of every month, and if they do come home, they may work from home for a couple of days, or they may go in and rent a space, but they don't necessarily go into a permanent office every day. A lot of these people also are paying stuff out of pocket, like they consider themselves to be consultant. They're self-employed and they reach out and they contract out to companies to do a certain job. Currently, The gold collar economy, it's in transition, and I feel that it'll actually take a step back because of the COVID virus, where people will be looking for more sustainable jobs that can handle fluctuations in the economy. And that will take you back to looking at white collar jobs where people may have been forced to work from home, but they're still collecting a paycheck. Where people that work gold dollar are considered to be gold collar. You can't travel, you can't consult, you can't make money. And that's a high liability. And are people willing to take that risk when the economy bounces back? Tomorrow, or at least you guys will see this looking at site situation. I'm planning on taking care of posting some things today and get with you. But I hope that you guys enjoy this video, understand it. We will also be taking a look at urban settlements and gentrification after this, starting with site situation, making sure you guys get that. Hope you guys have a great Thursday and a great weekend.